Maybe that's what's slowing it down. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so we are going to be starting our New Testament portion here. And so let's see here. I will be using the Aramaic New Testament and be testing it against Etheridge's Syriac. Okay. Where are you, Etheridge? Where are you, buddy? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to go to Luke 4. All right, here we go. Luke chapter 4. All right, everyone, let me make sure. Let me actually do a recording to the cloud too. So here, all righty then. Luke chapter 4, everyone. But Yahusha, being full of the spirit of set apartness, returned from the Jordan, and the Spirit led him into the wilderness, and to be tempted by the devil for 40 days. And he ate nothing in those days, and when he had finished them, and at the end was hungry. And the devil said to him, if you are the son of Alua, tell this stone to become bread. Yahusha answered and said to him, it is written, a man does not live by bread alone, but by every utterance of Alua. And Satan took him up on a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the earth in a short time. And the devil said to him, I shall give you all this dominion and its esteem, for it is delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I want. Now, again, and we're going to explain that verse there because that gets confusing. How does the devil have dominion over this world? We'll explain that after we read these chapters. All right. If therefore you will worship before me, it will all be yours. Yahushua answered and said to him, it is written, you shall worship the Master Yahuwah, your Elohim, and him only you shall serve. And he brought him to Jerusalem, and he stood him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, if you are the son of Alua, cast yourself down from here. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you that they will protect you. So now he's quoting, I believe, what is it? Psalms 91? Yeah. And they will carry you upon their arms, lest you should strike your foot on a stone. And Yahushua answered, and he said to him, it has been written, you shall not tempt Yahuwah, the Master Yahuwah, your Elohim. When the devil had finished all his temptations, he departed from his presence for a time. And Yahushua returned in the power of the Spirit to Galilee, and a report went out about him in every place around them. And he was teaching in their assemblies, and he was being praised by every person. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been raised. As he was accustomed, he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and he stood up to read. And the scroll of Isaiah, the prophet, was given to him. And Yahushua opened the scroll and found the place where it is written, the Spirit of the Master Yahuwah is upon me, and because of this, he has anointed me to preach the glad news to the poor. He has sent me to make whole broken hearts and to proclaim liberty to the captives, vision to the blind, and restore the crushed with forgiveness, and to proclaim the acceptable era of the Master Yahuwah. And he rolled up the scroll and gave it to the minister, or probably was a rabbi in this time period. And he went and sat down, but all who were in the synagogue fixed their eyes upon him. And he began to say to them, today this scripture is fulfilled in your ears. All of them were testifying to it. They were amazed at the words of the fate of favor that came out of his mouth. And they were saying, is not this Joseph's son? Yahusha said to them, doubtless you will say to me this proverb, physician, heal yourself. Everything we are hearing that you have done in Capernaum, do also here in your town. But he said, assuredly I say to you, there is not a prophet who is received in his own town. For truly I say to you that many widows were in Yasharal in the days of Eliyahu the prophet, when the heavens were shut for 3 days and 6 months, and there was hunger, great hunger in all the land. And Eliyahu was not sent to one of them except to Sarepta of Sidon, Tyre, unto a widow woman. And there were many lepers among Yasharal in the days of Elisha the prophet. Not one of them was purified except Naaman the Syrian. And when they who were in the synagogue heard these things, they were all filled with rage. And they arose and they thrust him outside the city, and they brought him unto the ridge of the mountain on which the city was built, to cast him from precipice. But he passed through the midst of them, and he departed. And he went down to Capernaum, and a city of Galilee, and he was teaching them on the Sabbath. Okay, they were astonished at his teaching, for his message was with authority. And there was a man in the synagogue who had spirits of filthy demons in him, and cried with a loud voice, and he said, leave us alone, or let us alone. What business do we have with you, Yahusha Nazarene? Have you come to destroy us? I know you who you are, the set apart one of Alua. Now, if you don't read certain extra biblical literature, you won't understand the significance of that. But he's basically calling him, in other words, he's calling him the Son of Man. So that's why Yahusha tells him to shut up. He's like, not the time yet. Shut up. And it came out from him, and when it did no harm. The great astonishment gripped everyone, and they were speaking with one another, and they were saying, what indeed is this message? For with authority and with power he commands the foul spirits, and they came out. And a report about him went out into the whole region that was around them. And when Yahusha went out from the synagogue, he entered the house of Simon, and Simon's mother-in-law was afflicted with a great fever, and they besought him for her sake, and stood over her and rebuked her fever, and it left her. And at once she arose, and she was waiting on them. And the sun was setting, and they brought to him all of those who were very ill with various diseases, and he laid his hand on each one of them and made them whole. It's interesting, he healed them at sunset. And we were just reading today about ritual uncleanness. You're unclean till evening, unclean till evening. I don't know, that might be a connection there. And many demons were going out from many as they screamed, and they were saying, you are the Messiah, the son of Alua. And he was rebuking them, and he was not allowing them to say that they knew that he was the Messiah. And at daybreak, he went out by himself to a deserted place. The crowds were seeking him and came to his place, and they held to him that he would not depart from them. But Yahusha said to them, I must proclaim the kingdom of Alua to other cities also. It is for this I am sent, meaning this is my purpose on earth. And he was preaching in the synagogues of Galilee. Chapter 5. Now it happened that when the crowd gathered around him to hear the word of Alua, and he was standing on the side of the lake of Gennesaret, and he saw 2 ships that stood on the shore of the lake, and the fishermen who had come down from them were washing their nets. And one of them belonged to Simon Kapha. And Yahusha went up and sat down in it, and he said, take it out a little from the land into the water. And he sat down and he taught the crowds from the ship. And when he had ceased speaking, he said to Simon, take to the deep, cast your nets for a catch. Simon answered, and he said to him, Rabbi, we worked all night. We have not caught anything. But at your word, I will cast the net. And when they had done this, they caught very many fish, and the net was breaking. And they beckoned to their partners who were in another ship to come help them. And when they came, they filled those ships so that they were almost sinking. And when Simon Kepha saw it, he fell before the feet of Yahushua and said to him, I beg you, my master, abandon me, for I am a sinner. For awe has seized him, and all of them who were with him, due to the catch of the fish which they had caught. Likewise, also Jacob and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. But Yahushua said to Simon, do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men for salvation. Interesting. And they brought those ships to land, and they left everything, and they came after him. When Yahushua was in one of the cities, certain man who was full of leprosy came in and saw Yahushua, and he fell down on his face, and he begged of him. He said to him, my master, if you are willing, you can purify me. And Yahushua reached his hand and touched him and said, I am willing, be purified. And immediately his leprosy went from him, and he was purified. And he commanded him, tell no man, but go show yourself to the priest and offer for your cleansing, just as Moshe commanded for their testimony. Okay. So now Yahushua is referencing the Torah command we just read about earlier, about the cleansing of the leper, probably referring to the sacrifice of the turtle dove, I would assume. Let's see here. So, and fame went out about him increasingly, and many people were gathered to hear from him and be healed of their sickness. But he was departing to the wilderness and praying. And it happened one of the days when Yahushua was teaching, the Pharisees and teachers of the law were sitting, who had come from every village of Galilee and of Judea and of Jerusalem. And the power of the Master Yahuwah was there to make them whole. Okay. And men brought a man on a pallet who was paralyzed, and they were seeking to enter to place him in front of him. And when they found no way to bring him in because of the crowd of the people, they went up themselves to the roof and lowered him with the pallet from the tiles into the center in front of Yahushua. But when Yahushua saw their belief, he said to the paralyzed man, man, your sins are forgiven you. And the scribes and the Pharisees began to think, and they were saying, who is this who speaks blasphemy? Who is able to forgive sins except Allah alone? Now, what basically the Pharisees are doing here is kind of true. Like, who other than the Father can forgive sins of men that, like, basically they didn't sin against Yahushua. He's forgiving this guy of his past sins. They're kind of bringing up a good point, and I would agree with them because he is the Father. So I would agree with them. No one but the Father could forgive sins. But Yahushua knew their thoughts, and he answered and said, what thoughts are entered to you by you in your heart? Which is easier, to say, your sins are forgiven you, or to say, arise and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man, not a Son of Man, the Son of Man, is authorized in the earth to forgive sins. He said to the paralyzed man, I say to you, arise, pick up your pallet, and go to your house. At once he arose, and before their eyes, and took up his pallet, and he went on to the house as he praised Allah. And astonishment seized everyone, and they were praising Allah, and they were filled with awe, and they were saying, we have seen wonders today. And after these things, Yahushua went out and saw a tax collector whose name was Levi, who sat in the house of customs, and he said to him, come after me. Now, to me, this is clearly showing Levi is definitely not a Gentile. Because, I mean, we've been taught, the Gentiles are no, they're not tax collectors. This is showing me clearly that it's a Hebrew tax collector. The fact that he has the name Levi, I mean, that should be a giveaway. And he left everything, and rising, he went after him. And Levi made a great reception for him in his house, and there was a great crowd of tax collectors of others who were reclining at dinner with him, or with them. And the scribes and Pharisees were complaining. They were saying to his disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?" And Yahushua answering, he said to them, "A doctor is not sought for the healthy, but for," of course it keeps dropping too low. And they were saying to his disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?" Okay, verse 31 here. And Yahushua answering, he said to them, "A doctor is not sought for the healthy, but for those who become very ill. I have not come that I may call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." Okay. But they were saying to them, "Why do the disciples of John fast trustworthily and pray, also the Pharisees, but yourselves are eating and drinking?" Oh man, this is where the whole legalism of, oh, you gotta fast on a certain day. But he said to them, "You cannot make the children of the bridal chamber fast as long as the groom is with them. But the days will come when the groom will be taken from them, and then they will fast in those days." And he said, and he told them, a parable. "No man tears a strip from a new garment, is it a worn garment, lest also the new tears the worn, and it does not resemble the strip from the new piece. And no man places new wine into old wineskins, lest the new wine should burst the skins, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are ruined. But new wine is placed in new wineskins, and both are preserved. And no man drinks old wine at once, desires the new, for he says the old is sweet." Okay. All right, chapter 6. Now it happened on the Sabbath, when Yahushua was walking among the grain, and the disciples were plucking the ears and were rubbing them in their hands and eating them. But some of the Pharisees were saying to them, "Why are you doing what is illegal to do on the Sabbath?" Yahushua answered and said to them, "Have you not read this thing that David did when he was hungry, and those who were with him? When he entered the house of Alua, and he took and ate the bread of the table of the master Yahuwah, and gave to those who were with him, which was not legal to eat except for the priests only." So he's talking about the showbread. "And he said to them, the Son of Man is the master of the Sabbath. But it happened on another Sabbath that he entered a synagogue, and he was teaching. And a man was there whose right hand was shriveled." Interesting. "And the scribes and the Pharisees were watching them, whether he would heal on the Sabbath, that they might be able to accuse him. But he knew their schemes, and he said to the man whose hand was shriveled, 'Stand, come to the center of the synagogue.' And when he came and stood, Yahushua said to him, 'I ask you, what is legal on the Sabbath, to do tov or evil, to save life or to destroy?' And he gazed at all of them, and he said to them, 'Straighten your hand.' And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored like his other. But they were filled with envy, and they were speaking one with another of what they should do to Yahushua. But it occurred in those days that Yahushua went out to a mountain to pray, where he was waiting for morning in the prayer of Alua. And when it was dawn, he called his disciples, and he chose 12 of them. He chose 12 of them, whom he named apostles: Simon, whom he named Kapha, Andrew, his brother, Jacob and Yohanan and Philippus and Bartolome. Okay, so let's see here. And Mattai and Thomas and Jacob. Simon, who is called the Zealot. See, they had a zealot as one of the disciples. Yehuda bar Yaakov. And then you have Yehuda Iscariot, who was the traitor. Okay. All right. And Yahushua descended with them, and he stood in the valley at a great crowd of his disciples, and the multitude of crowds of people from all of Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, who came near his message and to be healed of their sicknesses, those who were afflicted by foul spirits, and they were healed. And all the crowds were seeking to touch him, for power was proceeded from him, and it was making hold of them. And he lifted his eyes upon his disciples and said, Baruch are you poor ones, because yours is the kingdom of Alua. Baruch are you who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Baruch are you who weep, for you shall laugh. Baruch are you whenever men shall hate you and shall separate you and shall insult you and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for your reward is great in heaven. For so were their fathers doing to the prophets. But woe to you, rich men, for you have received your comfort. Woe to you, satisfied ones, for you shall hunger. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you shall weep and you shall wail. Woe to you when men shall say wonderful things about you, for so were their fathers doing to the false prophets. But I say to you who are hearing, love your enemies, do what is wonderful to those who hate you, barak those who curse you, pray over those who take you away by force. And to him who strikes you on your cheek, offer the other. From whoever takes away your cloak, withhold not your coat also. Give to everyone who asks you, and do not demand from him who takes what is yours. And just as you desire people to do for you, do also for them. For if you love those who love you, what tobness do you have? Even sinners love those who love them. If you are doing tob to those who treat you well, what tobness do you have? For even sinners do likewise. And if you lend to him from whom you expect to be repaid, what tobness do you have? For even sinners lend to sinners to be repaid likewise. But love your enemies, treat them well, and lend, and do not cut off the trust of any person, and your reward shall be great. And you shall be children of the highest, because he is kind towards the evil and towards the unbelievers. Be therefore merciful, just as also your Father is merciful. Do not judge, you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you, good in tob measure. Pressed down and overflowing, they shall cast into your lap. For with what measure you measure it, it will be measured to you. And he told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will not both of them fall into a ditch? There is no disciple greater than his mentor. For everyone who is perfected shall be like his mentor. But why do you observe a chip in the eye of your brother, but you do not see the plank that is in your eye? Or how can you say to your brother, my brother, let me cast the chip out of your eye, and when behold, the plank that is in your own eye is not visible to you? Hypocrite, first cast out the plank from your own eye, and then sight will be given to you to pull out the chip from your brother's eye. Okay, there is not a tob tree that produces bad fruit, neither a bad tree that produces tob fruit. For every tree is known by its fruits, for they do not pick figs from thorns, neither do they gather grapes from a bush. Okay. A Tob man brings forth Tob from the Tob measure that is in his heart. And the evil man brings out evil from the evil treasure that is in his heart, for the lips speak from the fullness of the heart. Why are you calling me my master, and you are not doing what I say? Every person who comes to me and has heard my words does them. I shall show you what he is like. He is like a man who built a house and dug, and he went deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when there was a flood, the flood beat on that house, and it could not shake it, for its foundation was founded on the rock. Okay. And he who heard and did not do, it is like the man who built his house on the soil with a foundation, and when the river beat on it, immediately it fell, and the fall of that house was great. Okay. All right, Mom, go ahead.
Chapter 7, the faith of the centurion. When Yahusha had finished saying all this in the hearing of the people, he entered Capernaum. There a centurion's servant, whom his master valued highly, was sick and about to die. The centurion heard of Yahusha and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal his servant. When they came to Yahusha, they pleaded earnestly with him, "This man deserves to have you do this, because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue." So Yahusha went with them. He was not far from the house when the centurion sent friends to say to him, "Master, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Yahusha heard this, he was amazed at him, and turned to the crowd following him. He said, "I tell you, I have not found such great faith, even in Yisrael." Then the men who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. Soon afterward, Yahusha went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd went along with him. As he approached the town gate, a dead person was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a large crowd from the town was with her. When Yahusha saw her, his heart went out to her, and he said, "Don't cry." Then he went up and touched the coffin, and those carrying it stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." The dead man sat up and began to talk, and Yahusha gave him back to his mother. They were all filled with awe and praising Yahuwah. "A great prophet has appeared among us," they said. "Yahuwah has come to help his people." This news about Yahusha spread throughout Judea and the surrounding country. John's disciples told him all about these things. Calling two of them, he sent them to the master to ask, "Are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?" When the men came to Yahusha, they said, "John the Baptist sent us to you to ask, are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?" At that very time, Yahusha cured many who had diseases, sickness, and evil spirits, and gave sight to many who were blind. So he replied to the messengers, "Go back and report to John what you have seen and heard. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me." After John's messengers left, Yahusha began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the desert to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No. Those who wear expensive clothes and indulge in luxury are in palaces. But what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. I tell you, among those born of women, there is no one greater than John. Yet the one who is least in the kingdom of Yahuwah is greater than he. All the people, even the tax collectors, when they heard Yahusha's words, acknowledged that Yahuwah's way was right, because when they had been baptized by John, but the Pharisees and experts in the law rejected Yahuwah's purpose for themselves, because they had not been baptized by John. To what then can I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to each other. We played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not cry. For John the Baptist came neither eating bread nor drinking wine, and you say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you say, here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by all her children. Now one of the Pharisees invited Yahusha to have dinner with him. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Yahusha was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Yahusha answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 men owed money to a certain money lender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts on both. Now which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled. You have judged correctly, Yahusha said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little. Then Yahusha said to her, your sins are forgiven. The other guests began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Yahusha said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. 8:2, right, Doug?
We're reading like the whole chapter 8.
Okay. After this, Yahusha traveled about from one town and village to another, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of Yahuwah. The 12 were with him, and also some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Mary called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had come out, Joanna, the wife of Chuza, the manager of Herod's household, Susanna, and many others. These women were helping to support them out of their own means, while a large crowd was gathering and people were coming to Yahusha from town after town. He told this parable. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. It was trampled on, and the birds of the air ate it up. Some fell on rock, and when it came up, the plants withered because they had no moisture. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up with it and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil. It came up and yielded a crop 100 times more than was sown. When he said this, he called out, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." His disciples asked him what this parable meant. He said, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of Yahuwah has been given to you, but to others I speak in parables, so that though seeing they may not see, though hearing they may not understand." This is the meaning of the parable. The seed is the word of Yahuwah. Those along the path are the ones who hear. And then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts, so that they cannot believe and be saved. Those on the rock are the ones who receive the word with joy, but when they hear it, they have no root. They believe for a while, but in the time of testing, they fall away. The seed that fell among thorns stands for those who hear, but as they go on their way, they are choked by life's worries, riches, and pleasures, and they do not mature. But the seed on good soil stands for those with a noble and good heart, who hear the word, retain it, and by persevering, produce a crop. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, he puts it on a stand so that those who come in can see the light. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Therefore, consider carefully how you listen. Whoever has been given more, whoever does not even what he thinks he has, will be taken from him. Now, Yahusha's mother and brothers came to see him, and they were not able to get near him because of the crowd. Someone told him, "Your mother and brothers are standing outside wanting to see you." He replied, "My mother and brothers are those who hear Yahuwah's word and put it into practice." One day, Yahusha said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side of the lake." So they got into the boat and set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake, so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. "Where is your faith?" he asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, "Who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him." He's the one that created them. That's why. They sailed to the region of the Gennesaret, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Yahusha stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not woven clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Yahusha, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Yahusha, son of the Most High Elohim? I beg you, don't torture me." For Yahusha had commanded the evil spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demons into a solitary place. Yahusha asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him, and they begged him repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Yahusha to let them go into them, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and extorted this in the town and reported this in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Yahusha, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at Yahusha's feet, dressed and in his right hand, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Yahusha to leave them, because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Yahusha sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much Yahuwah has done for you." So the man went away and told all over town how much Yahusha had done for him. Now, when Yahusha returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Just then, a man named Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, came and fell at Yahusha's feet, pleading with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Yahusha went on his way, the crowds almost crushed him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Yahusha asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Yahusha said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." While Yahusha was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Yahusha said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Yahusha said. "She is not dead, just asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Yahusha told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened.
All right. Let's see, verse 44 here.
Very first coma.
She approached him from behind. She touched, your translation, the edge. That's laughable.
If I read it right, let me just.
No, that has nothing to do with you reading it right. It's these
Something
stupid.
say hem of his garment. Something.
No, mine says the fringe, which actually hints.
Tassel.
Yeah, his zitzi is what she touched.
Right.
She didn't touch the edge of his pants. Right. See, Christianity changes that so you don't put two and two together that he's wearing tassels.
Okay.
Well, it is important, Mom.
Okay, I didn't say it wasn't.
I'm just saying it is something to pay attention to because this is Christianity trying to erase the Torah here on purpose. This is them trying to erase any of his commands. They're doing their best to erase any Hebrewness of the Messiah. That's why they put edge. That's why they put border. They know that it's supposed to be tassel. And the reason they know that is because the Septuagint uses the same Greek word for tassel. Literally the same Greek word. And the Greek word would be kraspadon. Let me see here if I can go to the Greek here to show you guys what I'm talking about. Luke 8:44.
And Brother Doug, you know how they depict him in all the pictures with just wearing like a white robe? They don't show him with
Yep.
tzitzits. They just show him
Yep.
with a robe,
Yeah,
which
he
does
wouldn't
not
wear a white
show.
robe until he's resurrected. I mean, that would have been. Yep, go ahead, sis. Yeah. Kraspedon, G2899. This is the same Greek word used in Numbers 15:33, I think it is, when it's talking about to put the fringes on. So to translate that as hem is you're being extremely dishonest as a translator. Extremely dishonest. Because that's the same Greek word in the Septuagint that's used for fringe or tassel. Same exact word. So it should say that she touched the fringe or tassel of his garment. So basically, she pulled on, if I can show you viewers and listeners, she pulled on his zitzi, is what she did, and power went out from him. So the reason it's important is because that's one of the Father's commandments in the Torah. So that shows that Yahushua is not telling his disciples to do away with the Torah because he's keeping it himself. So when he leaves and he tells them, make disciples of all nations, we all know that verse, but it also says keep all the commandments I've given you, right? Well, he would have given them to wear tassels because he's doing it himself. And he says in other places, I am your example. So if I'm someone's example, I'm expecting them to do everything I do. If I'm someone's example. So that would include that. That would include wearing tassels on the four corners of your garments, regardless whether you wear them like the Native Americans wear them or you wear them, the modern way, the traditional way of tzitzis. Either way, that's something that he would have taught his disciples to do. And he done it himself, obviously, if we look into the original Greek there. Anyone interested that wants to see more proof of this, I would recommend you go to the channel on my YouTube channel. I did wants to see more proof of this. I would recommend you go. Yeah, we don't need to have echo here. All right, so there's a video I did a while ago about this topic, about tassel, the word kraspedon. Okay, let me see here if I can redirect you guys.
So, Brother Doug, was he wearing a tallit or not?
I think he was wearing a tassel because that's what the Greek word actually means, like fringe or tassel. So it could have been either or. It could have been.
But was he wearing a prayer shawl, the tallit as we know it, or is that
no,
a tradition?
No. Oh,
a man-made thing?
Nah, I don't think a prayer shawl. No, that's definitely traditional Judaism.
That's probably a man-made tradition.
Yeah, that's like an addition of Judaism. Yeah, but he definitely would have had fringes like the Native Americans,
the tzitzits,
or he would have had the tzitzis. Either version. Yeah. So this is a video I did a while ago explaining how kraspedon does not mean hem, as it's translated in English Bibles, and so anyone that's interested in this topic that wants to know more, any Christians that might be watching that want to know more, and why you can't really fully trust your English translators and you got to look into the Greek and the Hebrew sometimes. It's called tassels/fringes or hem. So is this word supposed to mean hem, or is it supposed to mean fringes or tassels? So, and again, that Greek word in the Strong's is G2899 kraspedon. And the majority of the time in the Old Testament is always translated in the Septuagint as fringes or tassels. It's never translated as hem. So hem of his garment, in my opinion, is extremely being dishonest with the text, and these translators are doing it on purpose. They're trying to mislead people into thinking that Yahusha taught another law than the Father. Would be one of their reasons, one of their biases, is to erase any Hebrew culture that the Messiah would have been keeping. Any type of commandments from the Old Testament that would have been something that Christianity today does not want to keep, and one of them is tassels. That's one thing that traditionally people are taught, oh, that's for the Jews, that's a Jewish thing, But anyway, that's the end of my rant there. Thank you, Brother Joshua, about that reference you put down in the chat there. Chapter 7 of 35 talks about wisdom knows all his children. That obviously is a reference to Yahusha. He called that girl his child. So to me, it's kind of interesting. Certain translators want to mistranslate it as her. And I just, again, that's trying to put the stupid feminine divine into the text, which I can't stand. And I hate with a passion why these translators want to do that. It's beyond me. But anyway, so Luke 8:24-25, I found interesting. My mom's found that connection with the fact there's even scripture in the Tanakh that shows that Yahuwah is the one that controls the sea also. So we see a oneness connection between Yahusha and the Father. Let's see if I can find the verse here. I think it's somewhere in Psalms where he talks about he calms the sea or he rebukes the sea. Rebukes the sea. Let's see here. Psalms 106, verse 9. He rebuked the Red Sea and dried it up, and led them through depths through the desert. Oh, right here. Here's a more literal connection here with Luke 8:24-25. Psalms 18, verse 15. The valleys of the sea were exposed and the foundations of the earth laid bare at your rebuke and at the blast of breath from your nostrils. So that's kind of interesting. Yep. So anyway, that's just one of the oneness connections that those of us that believe that Yahuwah is Yahusha, we know of, about that only Yahuwah would be able to rebuke the sea and tell the sea to stop, to calm the sea. So anyway, so thank you for joining us today. This concludes our study for today, and for us that are Eastern Standard Time, pretty much the Sabbath just stopped for us. So I thank you guys for tuning in. For all of you viewers out there, listeners that saw this on Facebook today, thank you for bearing well with us. So have a great rest of your Sabbath to the brothers and sisters out there in Yahuwah and Yahusha. And have a great rest of your Sabbath. Shalom.